the house I built with my own hands 30 years ago. I looked at my son and my daughter-in-law as I told them the words that would change everything. I lost everything today. The company, the properties, the accounts. Everything is gone. The silence lasted barely 3 seconds before my daughter-in-law, Pamela, replied, with a coldness that froze my blood. Then you cannot live here, Arthur. We cannot support someone else. My son David. My only son. He nodded without hesitation, without even looking me in the eyes. I stayed silent. I nodded slowly and took a step back. But in that moment, while I saw the satisfaction barely hidden on their faces, I knew with absolute certainty what I was going to do. Something that would make them kneel before me, begging me, pleading with me not to change absolutely anything. But before I tell you how I unmasked the two people I loved most in this world, I need to know something from you. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what city or country you are listening from. I want to know if family betrayals are something that happens everywhere, or if we only learned to hide knives behind smiles right here. My name is Arthur Robinson. I am 58 years old. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, in a humble neighborhood where the streets were rough and dreams seemed impossible. My father was a mechanic in someone else's shop. My mother sold homemade sandwiches at the market starting at 5 in the morning. We were poor, but we had something money cannot buy: dignity and work ethic. Since I was 12, I helped my father in the shop. By 16, I knew how to take apart and assemble any engine. By 20, while my friends were going from party to party, I was studying mechanical engineering at night and working during the day. I married Lucy when I was 25. She was a secretary at a law firm, a beautiful, intelligent woman with a laugh that lit up any room. We loved each other with the intensity of two people who knew what it was to fight for every dollar. David was born when I was 27. He was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen in my life. I swore before God and before Lucy that my son would never go through the hardships I went through, that he would have all the opportunities that were denied to me. At 30, I opened my own mechanic shop with a loan that took me 10 years to pay off. The shop grew. 5 years later, I had 3 locations. By 40, I had transformed the business into a company that imported and distributed auto parts. I worked 16 hours a day. I missed school recitals, soccer games, and birthdays. But it was all for David. It was all to ensure a better future for him. Lucy died 8 years ago, breast cancer that we detected too late. The last 6 months of her life were an agony that no money could alleviate. Before dying, she made me promise her something. Take care of David. Do not let him become a weak man. Teach him to value what he has. I promised her I would, but I failed. I failed miserably. David studied business administration at the University of Michigan, one of the best schools. I paid for every semester, every book, every night out with his friends. He graduated with honors. I was proud. I thought he would work with me, that he would learn the business from the bottom up like I did. But he had other plans. He wanted to start in a position that matched his education. I gave him the position of assistant commercial director, a position he had not earned and did not deserve, but I gave it to him because he was my son and because I wanted to see him successful. He met Pamela at a business conference 5 years ago. She worked in marketing for a cosmetics company. She was attractive, well-dressed, with that artificial confidence of people who pretend to be more than they are. From the beginning, something about her made me uncomfortable. The way she evaluated everything with her eyes, how her eyes lit up when we talked about money or properties, how she touched David's arm in that possessive, territorial way. But I kept quiet. David seemed in love, and I did not want to be the bitter father who rejects the daughter-in-law. They got married 2 years later in a wedding that cost more than $40,000. I paid for everything: the church, the venue, the banquet, the honeymoon in Europe. Pamela wanted a wedding worthy of our social standing. I remember Lucy used to say that the people who talk most about social standing are the ones who have it the least. I should have listened to her voice in my memory. After the wedding, things changed subtly. David started arriving late to work. His reports were incomplete. He made decisions without consulting me. When I called him out on it, he got defensive. Pamela says you treat me like an employee, not like your son. Pamela says I should have more autonomy. Pamela says, it was always Pamela. A year ago, they pressured me to buy them a house. Not just any house. A residence in a gated community in Bloomfield Hills. One of the most exclusive areas. A $400,000 home. I gave them the down payment. $100,000. It is a loan, I told them. You are going to pay me back little by little. David nodded. Pamela smiled. They never paid me a single dollar back. Then came the cars. Pamela wanted a BMW. Something that matches our image, she said. David needed an Audi for meetings with clients. I helped them with the down payments. More than $25,000 between both of them. It was also supposed to be a loan. They also stopped mentioning the topic after receiving the money. 6 months ago, I noticed something strange in the company books. Small amounts were missing. $2,000 here, $3,000 there. Nothing too obvious, but I had been in this business for 30 years. I knew every number, every movement. I quietly hired an external auditor, a guy I trusted who had worked with me before. I asked him to review everything without anyone finding out. The results arrived 3 weeks later. David had been diverting company funds for over a year. Fake invoices, phantom vendors, inflated bonuses. In total, he had stolen almost $150,000. $150,000 that were supposedly temporary loans he was going to return when the opportunity arose. The auditor also found something more disturbing. Internet searches on David's computer about inheritances, wills, and how to declare the mental incapacity of an elderly adult. I sat in my office with that report in my hands and I cried. Not from sadness, but from rage, from disappointment, from a sense of betrayal. So deep, I felt it tearing my heart out. This was my son, the boy I had carried on my shoulders, who I had taught to ride a bike, for whom I had sacrificed everything, and he was stealing from me. Worse still, he was researching how to declare me incompetent, to keep everything before I died, naturally. But I said nothing. I did not confront David. I did not call Pamela. Instead, I started my own investigation. If 30 years of business had taught me anything, it was that information is power. And I needed to have all the power possible before moving a single piece on this board. I hired a private investigator, a retired police detective named Maurice, who had contacts everywhere. I gave him clear instructions. I need to know everything about David and Pamela, where they go, who they talk to, what they do, what they spend money on, everything. The reports started arriving weekly, and each one was worse than the last. Pamela had rented an office in a commercial area where she supposedly had her own consulting firm. But there was no firm. The office was a front. What did exist were frequent meetings with a lawyer specializing in family law and estates. A guy named Gerald Sanders, known in the city for handling shady cases of disputed inheritances. David was meeting with a private psychiatrist every 2 weeks, not to treat himself. The conversations that Maurice managed to partially record from the parking lot revealed they were discussing third-party medical evaluations and diagnoses that could support incapacity and necessary documentation for legal processes. But what really destroyed me was the recording Maurice obtained from a dinner between David Pamela and the lawyer Sanders in an Italian restaurant downtown. The audio quality was excellent, and what I heard made me understand that my worst suspicions fell short. Pamela asked, "How long does the complete process take?" Sanders replied, "It depends. If you have a solid medical diagnosis demonstrating cognitive deterioration or early onset dementia, it can be relatively quick. 4 to 6 months. We need 2 independent evaluations," David asked. "And if he resists?" "My father is stubborn. He will not accept going to the doctor just because I ask him," Saunders said. "That is why you need to document erratic behaviors. major forgetfulness, questionable business decisions, anything that can be painted as mental deterioration. It also helps if there are witnesses, employees' acquaintances, people who can testify they have noticed changes, Pamela said. I have a psychologist friend who can help with that. She can do casual evaluations in social settings. David asked. And afterwards, once we declare him incompetent, can we do what we want with the properties? Saunders answered. If David is named legal, guardian, or conservator, yes. He can manage all assets, sell, mortgage, invest, all under the assumption that he is acting in the father's best interest. Sure, there is judicial supervision, but if everything is documented correctly, Pamela asked, how much is all this going to cost us? Sanders said. My fees are $30,000. Plus medical expenses, expert testimonies, possible appeals. Let us say $50,000 to be safe. But it is an investment considering we are talking about an estate of over $2 million. $2 million. That was the estimated value of everything I had built. The company, the properties, the investments. And my son. My son was planning to steal everything from me by declaring me crazy. Not when I died, not waiting for nature to take its course. Now, while I was still alive, healthy, completely capable. I did not sleep that night. I sat on my porch looking at the city lights, thinking of Lucy, thinking of the promise I made her, thinking of how I had failed so completely in raising our son. At what moment did David turn into this? Was it my fault for giving him too much, for making life too easy? Or was it Pamela who had poisoned him? It did not matter. The result was the same. My son was a traitor, and I had to decide what I was going to do about it. I called my personal lawyer the next day, Roger Clark, a 65-year-old man who had handled my legal affairs for 20 years. I showed him everything. The auditor's reports, the investigator's recordings, the evidence of the embezzlement. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Arthur, this is serious, very serious. We can file criminal charges for fraud. We can also remove him immediately from the company. And you should definitely change your will and revoke any power of attorney you have given him. No, I said, not yet. Why not? Because I need this to end completely. I do not want to just remove him from the company or put him in jail. I need him to understand. I need both of them to understand that their actions have consequences. I need them to feel exactly what I felt when I discovered their betrayal. Roger looked at me for a long time. What do you have in mind? I explained my plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing. But if it worked, it would not only protect me, but fully expose David and Pamela. Roger listened in silence. When I finished, he smiled. It is cruel, but considering what they did to you, it is justice. Over the next 2 weeks, I prepared everything meticulously. I transferred most of my liquid assets to new accounts David did not know about. I changed the deeds of my most valuable properties to a trust he could not touch. I met with the accountant, with the notary, with 3 different lawyers. Everything had to be watertight. Everything had to be legal, because what I was going to do was going to destroy them. But I had to do it without breaking any laws. I also hired 2 professional witnesses, people whose job is exactly that, to be present and document specific events. I instructed them on what I needed them to see and hear, and I coordinated with Maurice to have discrete audio and video equipment installed in my house. Finally, 3 days ago, everything was ready. It was time to act. I sent a message to David and Pamela. I need to talk to you urgently. Come to the house tonight at 8. It is important. David replied an hour later. Is everything okay, Dad? I answered. We will talk in person. They arrived on time. Pamela was wearing an expensive dress she had probably bought with the stolen money. David was wearing the suit I had given him for his last birthday. They walked into the living room with that fake concern people rehearse in the mirror. What is wrong, Dad? You look worried, David said, sitting on the armchair as if he owned the house. I took a deep breath. It was time. I have to tell you something. Something very serious. I paused, letting the tension grow. I lost everything today. Pamela leaned forward. What do you mean, everything, the company? There was a surprise IRS audit. Tax problems I did not see coming. They froze the accounts. Everything is seized. The building, the warehouses, everything. I lied with the most serious face I could make. Also, the properties, I had loans backed by them. The banks are going to foreclose. The house in Bloomfield Hills, the apartments downtown, everything is going to be auctioned off. David went pale, but not out of concern for me. It was panic over what this meant for him. Pamela, on the other hand, tensed up. Her eyes narrowed. And this house also. Everything is in my name. Everything is going to be lost. There was a silence. A thick, heavy silence. And then Pamela spoke with a cold voice that did not try to hide anything. Then you cannot live here, Arthur. I stared at her. Excuse me, I said you cannot live here. If you are going to lose this house anyway, it makes no sense for you to stay here. And us? We cannot support you. We already have our own expenses. We cannot take charge of someone else. I looked at David, my son, my only blood. I waited. I prayed internally that he would say something, that he would defend me, that he would tell his wife she was crazy. But he just nodded, without hesitating, without looking me in the eyes. Pamela's right, Dad. You are not young anymore. You need to be in a place where they can take good care of you. There are very good state facilities for people your age. Facilities. Nursing homes. They were sending me to a state nursing home before I could become a burden. I stayed silent. I nodded slowly. I took a step back as if I accepted my fate, as if I were the defeated old man they needed me to be. I saw the satisfaction in Pamela's eyes. I saw the relief on David's face. They thought it had been easy, that I had given up without a fight. I understand, I said with a broken voice, acting my best role. I suppose you are right. I am not useful to anyone anymore. Without money, without a company, I am just a burden. Pamela stood up, smoothing her dress. Do not take it personally, Arthur. It is just that we have to be practical. You understand business. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sure, I murmured. Hard decisions. David finally looked at me. There was a glint of something in his eyes. Guilt, discomfort. But it was not enough to make him change his mind. Dad, we will help you find a good place. Something dignified. And we can visit you often. Visit me. I repeated the word as if it were poison. Like you visit a dog at the shelter. Do not be dramatic, Pamela said with an irritated tone. Many people your age live in homes. It is the most sensible thing. I took a deep breath. The moment had arrived. I took my phone out of my pocket. There is something I want to show you before you leave. Pamela frowned. What is it? I pressed play on an audio recording. The voice of the lawyer Sanders filled the room. If you have a solid medical diagnosis demonstrating cognitive deterioration or early onset dementia, it can be relatively quick. 4 to 6 months. The color disappeared from David's face. Pamela stood up abruptly. What is that? I kept playing it. Their own voices talking about declaring me incompetent, about seizing my properties, about stealing everything while I still breathed. Every word, every plan, every betrayal documented in crystal clear audio. When the recording ended, the silence was absolute. David was trembling. Pamela looked at me with a mixture of panic and rage. That is illegal. You cannot record people without their consent. Actually, Roger stepped out from the dining room where he had been waiting for my signal. Michigan is a one-party consent state for recordings, if you are part of the conversation. But regardless, when there is reasonable suspicion of criminal activity and conspiracy to commit fraud and dispossession, the rules change. Pamela turned to the lawyer. Who the hell are you, Roger Clark, Mr. Robinson's attorney? And I have very bad news for you two. He opened his briefcase and took out a thick folder. Besides the conspiracy to falsely declare mental incapacity, we have evidence that David has diverted almost $150,000 from the family company. Fake invoices, phantom vendors, all documented. That is aggravated fraud and embezzlement. David collapsed onto the couch. Dad, I was going to return it. It was temporary. We just needed. Needed what? My voice raised in volume. You needed to steal from me. You needed to plan to declare me crazy to keep everything I built. You needed to betray me. You never gave us enough, Pamela shouted, always controlling every dollar, every decision. David is your son. He has a right to live well, to have what corresponds to him. What corresponds to him, I repeated with bitterness. I gave him a job he did not deserve. I paid for an education that cost a fortune. I lent him money for his house, his cars, his wedding. And this is what I receive: conspiracy and theft. Roger intervened. Mr. Robinson, if I may, he addressed David and Pamela. You have two options. Option one, we file criminal charges right now. With the evidence we have, David is looking at 5 to 10 years in prison for fraud. Pamela can be charged as an accomplice. There is also the matter of Attorney Sanders, who could lose his license for participating in these types of schemes. Pamela opened her mouth to protest, but Roger raised his hand. I am not finished. Option 2. You sign an agreement right now where David resigns from any position in the company. You return every dollar you stole. You renounce any claim on Mr. Robinson's inheritance and accept to stay away from him unless he specifically seeks you out. If you accept option 2, Mr. Robinson will not press charges. That is blackmail, Pamela hissed. No, Roger said calmly. It is mercy, something you clearly were not going to offer him. David finally spoke with a broken voice. Did you really lose everything, Dad? Or was that also a lie? I looked him in the eyes. Of course it was a lie. Do you think after 30 years building a business, I was going to lose everything because of an audit? But I needed to know. I needed to see who you really were. And now I know. So you still have all the money, Pamela said, and I could see the wheels turning in her head, looking for an angle, some way to save the situation. Not only do I have all the money, I told her, I have something better. I have the truth, and I am going to make sure everyone in Detroit knows what kind of people you are. Pamela turned to David. We are not going to sign anything. Let us get our own lawyer. We can fight this. You can try, Roger said. But I warn you, we have enough evidence to sink both of you. And when this goes public, when all your friends, your business, contacts, your family find out what you did, who do you think is going to want to associate with you? It was true, and they knew it. In a business community like this, one scandal destroys you socially. David understood it first. If we sign you, really will not press charges. If you sign now, I said, and comply with every term of the agreement, I will not go to the police. But if you break the agreement in any way, if you try to contact me, manipulate me, or get near my business again, I will not only put you in jail, I will ensure everyone in this city knows exactly who you are. Pamela was furious. This is not fair. David is your son. He is your only family. Family. The word came out like spit. Family does not conspire to rob you. Family does not plan to lock you up. Family does not tell you that you are a burden the second they think you lost your money. You are not my family. You are two strangers who shared my last name and my blood. Roger put the documents on the coffee table. You have 5 minutes to decide. Afterwards, I withdraw the offer and we go straight to the police station. Pamela got up and headed towards the door. Let us go, David. We are not going to sign this. But David did not move. He stayed sitting, looking at the papers. How much do we have to pay back? The $150,000 you stole plus interest. In total, $180,000. You have 2 years to pay it. That is impossible, David murmured. We do not have that amount. Then sell the house, I said without mercy. Sell the cars. Get real jobs. Do what the rest of the people do when they have debts. Pamela came back furious. David, you cannot be considering this. He is your father. He is obligated to leave you something. It is your right. It is not his right, Roger intervened. In the U.S., the inheritance can be distributed however the testator wishes. And after this, I guarantee you that David is not going to see a single cent when Mr. Robinson passes away. David took the pen. His hand was trembling. If I sign this, can I at least see you? Talk to you? I looked at him for a long time. Part of me, a small and stupid part, wanted to say yes, that I forgave everything, that we could rebuild our relationship. But the bigger part, the part that had heard those recordings, that had seen the stolen numbers, that had just heard my daughter-in-law say she could not live in my own house. That part won. I do not know, David. Maybe someday. But not soon. Not until you prove you have really changed. He signed. Every page, every line. Pamela refused. I am not going to sign anything that says I renounce my rights as David's wife. You have no rights here, I told her. You are not my daughter. You have no legal connection to me except through David. And if you do not sign, I guarantee I am going to have you arrested as an accomplice in the fraud. I have evidence that you knew about the embezzlement. That makes you equally guilty. She looked at me with pure hate, but she took the pen. She signed with violent strokes that almost tore the paper. When she finished, she threw the pen on the table. This is not over, Arthur. I am going to find a way to... Careful what you say, Roger interrupted. Any threat against my client can be used against you, and I suggest you control yourself if you do not want to worsen your legal situation. Roger collected the documents, verified every signature, put the seals. The agreement is legally binding. David Robinson is prohibited from approaching Robinson Auto Parts or any of Mr. Arthur Robinson's properties. Any contact must be initiated by Mr. Robinson, not by you. The payments will begin next month. Failure to pay will result in immediate legal action. They got up to leave. David stopped at the door. Dad, I'm sorry. Really? No, I said. You are not sorry. You are sorry you got caught. There is a difference. They left. The door closed, and I stayed in my living room in my house, surrounded by the memories of 30 years of work, of a life built from scratch, with a broken heart, but with my dignity intact. Roger put his hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, Arthur. I know it does not feel like that now, but you did. Why does it feel like I lost then? Because you lost something. You lost the illusion that your son was who you thought he was. That loss hurts more than any amount of money. That night, after Roger left, I sat on the porch with a bottle of bourbon. The bourbon Lucy and I used to share on nights when we celebrated some achievement. I poured myself a glass. I raised the other empty one towards the sky. Lucy, my love, I failed. I failed to raise the son we both wanted. He became everything we despised. And I do not know if it is my fault for giving him too much, or his fault for never learning to value it. But it is done. And now I have to live with this. The phone rang. It was Maurice, the investigator. Mr. Robinson, I thought you should know. David and Pamela just arrived at their house. They are fighting in the street. The neighbors are watching. Do you want me to keep documenting? No, I said. I have enough. Your job is finished. Send me the final bill. One more thing, Mr. Robinson. Pamela's mother, Mrs. Higgins, called my office. She wants to speak with you. She says she has important information. That surprised me. Pamela's mother wants to speak with me. Yes? She sounded worried, scared. She even said there are things about her daughter you need to know. Things about Pamela's past that could explain her behavior. Give me her number. I hung up with Maurice and dialed the number he gave me. Mrs. Higgins answered on the first ring. Her voice was trembling, anxious. Mr. Robinson, it is me. Maurice told me you wanted to talk. Thank you for calling. I know you probably hate me. I am Pamela's mother, and she has done terrible things. But you need to know the truth about my daughter. I am listening. Pamela was not always like this. Or maybe she was, but I did not want to see it. When she was young, she stole money from my purse several times. She lied to her father about everything. She manipulated situations to get what she wanted. I thought it was a phase that she would mature. But it got worse when she met David. Why are you telling me this now? 'Cause I heard what happened tonight. David called me crying. He told me everything. And I need you to know that my daughter is planning something. She is not going to accept this. She is going to seek revenge. I felt a chill. What kind of revenge, I do not know exactly, but I know her. When Pamela feels she has been humiliated, when she feels she lost, she becomes dangerous. She has destroyed relationships, reputations. Once she almost ruined the career of a former co-worker who rejected her for a promotion. Are you warning me that your own daughter is a threat? There was a long pause. I am her mother, but I also have a conscience. And what they were planning against you was wrong, very wrong. David is weak. Pamela controls him completely. And now that you expose them, now that you took away their perfect plan, she is going to want to hurt you. You need to be alert. Do you have any proof of what you say? I have messages, conversations where she talks bad about you, where she plans things. I can send you screenshots. And there is something else, something I discovered reviewing Pamela's papers, something I think you should see in person. What is it I cannot talk about this over the phone? Can you meet with me tomorrow, somewhere neutral? A coffee shop, maybe? I hesitated. It could be a trap. Maybe Pamela was using her mother to get close to me, but something in Mrs. Higgins' voice sounded genuine, desperate. Okay, tomorrow at 10. The coffee shop on Main Street. I will be there. And Mr. Robinson, be careful. My daughter is capable of things neither you nor I can imagine. She hung up. I stood with the phone in my hand, feeling that this was far from over. Very far. The next morning I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. Maurice was sitting at a table in the back, in plain clothes, pretending to read a newspaper. I had asked him to be there for security. I did not know what to expect. Mrs. Higgins arrived on time. She was a woman in her 60s, gray hair, modest clothes. She looked tired, scared. She sat across from me and took an envelope out of her purse. Thank you for coming, she said with a low voice. I know this is strange. Your daughter conspired to rob me and declare me incompetent. Strange is an understatement. She nodded with sadness. I know, and I am sorry. I should have done something before. I should have stopped Pamela years ago when I saw the first signs, but I am her mother. I always hoped she would change. What do you have in that envelope? She opened it and took out several documents. These are Pamela's medical records from 10 years ago. She was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. The psychiatrist recommended long-term therapy. She went to 3 sessions and stopped going. She said the psychiatrist was an idiot who did not understand her. I reviewed the documents. They were genuine clinical. They detailed a pattern of manipulative behavior, lack of empathy, inflated sense of personal importance. Does David know this? I do not know. Pamela made me swear I would never tell anyone. She threatened to cut me out of her life if I spoke. But after what she has done, after what she is still planning, I cannot stay quiet. You said she is planning something. What Mrs. Higgins took out her phone. She showed me screenshots of a WhatsApp chat between Pamela and a friend named Monica. The dates were from last night, after they signed the agreement in my house. Pamela wrote, That old man is going to pay. Does he think he can humiliate me like this and get away with it? Monica asked. What are you going to do? Pamela replied. I have contacts in the media. I can leak a story that he is an abusive businessman who mistreats his family, that David has suffered years of psychological violence. People love those kinds of stories. Monica asked. And if he sues you for defamation, Pamela replied, let him try. By the time I finish with his reputation, nobody is going to want to do business with him. And if that does not work, there are other ways. Accidents happen, especially with men his age. I felt my blood freeze. Is she threatening to do me physical harm? Mrs. Higgins had tears in her eyes. I do not know. I do not want to believe it. But when Pamela gets like this, when she feels she was betrayed, she is capable of anything. That is why I came. I cannot let her do something terrible to you. She has already done enough damage. Why help me? She is your daughter. Because being a mother does not mean being an accomplice. And because if Pamela does something really bad, something that puts her in jail for real, I prefer someone stops her before. She wiped her eyes. Also, because you do not deserve this. David told me everything crying last night. He told me you gave him everything that you worked your whole life to give him a future, and he betrayed you. I also betrayed my family once. I let Pamela's father mistreat us for years without doing anything. When I finally had the courage to leave him, I swore I would never again stay quiet when I saw something wrong. And this is wrong. Very wrong. I took the screenshots. Can I keep them? They are yours, and there is more. She took another paper out of the envelope. This is a quote from a private detective agency. Pamela requested it 2 days ago before the meeting at your house. She wanted them to investigate your personal life, looking for anything they could use against you. Scandals, lovers, and anything that could damage you. They are not going to find anything. My life is my work and was my family. I know, but she is going to keep looking. And if she does not find anything real, she will invent something. I know her. Has she done this before I gave her my card with Roger's number? If you hear anything else, anything that sounds dangerous, call this number. It is my lawyer. He will know what to do. She put the card away. Are you going to report her to the police? Not yet. First, I need more evidence, but I'm preparing for the worst. We got up. She took my hand with both hands. Take care, Mr. Robinson, and forgive me for not having been a better mother. Maybe if I had raised Pamela better, none of this would have happened. Do not blame yourself. Children make their own decisions. Believe me, I know very well. She left. Maurice approached my table. Did you hear everything, every word? I have audio recordings. This woman is doing the right thing, but the daughter is a real danger. Do you want me to increase surveillance? Yes, and I want you to check all my security systems. Cameras, alarms, everything. If Pamela is going to try something, I want to be prepared. The following days were tense. I hired private security for my house and my office. I installed additional cameras. I informed my staff about the situation without going into details, just telling them there was a family conflict and they should report anything strange. Pamela did not waste time. 3 days after our confrontation, rumors began to circulate in the business circles of Detroit that I was an abusive father, that I had mistreated David all his life, that I had exploited him at work. Some of my contacts called me worried, asking if it was true. It is completely false, I told each one. It is a smear campaign orchestrated by my daughter-in-law after I discovered they were stealing from the company. I have complete documentation if anyone wants to see it. Most believe me. I had been doing business in Detroit for 30 years with integrity. My reputation was solid, but some doubted, and that was exactly what Pamela wanted, to sow doubt. A week later, I received a call from the company accountant. Mr. Robinson, we have a problem. Someone tried to access the accounting system from outside using David's credentials. The system blocked access, but whoever it was knew detailed information. Could you trace where the attempt came from? An IP address from an internet cafe in Dearborn. Impossible to know who specifically. Change all passwords, all of them, and activate 2-factor authentication for everything. I already did, but Mr. Robinson, this means whoever tried to get in has privileged company information. Information only David would have. Or Pamela, I thought. David probably gave her access to everything when they thought they were going to inherit the company. Thanks for letting me know. Stay alert in case there are more attempts. That afternoon, Roger called me urgently. Arthur, we have a legal problem. Pamela filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services alleging elder abuse. What she says, you forced her to sign documents under coercion, that you used threats and manipulation, that David is afraid of you. It is completely false, we know that. But still, they have to investigate. A social worker is going to contact you for an evaluation. This is ridiculous. I have recordings of everything. I have witnesses. I know. And we are going to present all that evidence. But prepare yourself for this to get ugly. Pamela is escalating. Defamation was not enough for her. Now she is using institutions against you. The social worker arrived 2 days later, a professional woman in her 40s named Gwen. She asked me questions about my mental health, my financial situation, my relationship with David. I showed her everything. The recordings, the fraud, documents, the signed agreement, Mrs. Higgins's testimony. She listened to everything with a serious expression. Mr. Robinson, I am going to be honest with you. It is obvious this complaint is malicious, but I have to follow protocol. I am going to recommend the case be closed, but Pamela can appeal. And she can keep filing complaints. How many times can she do this, technically without limit, until a judge declares her a vexatious litigant and prohibits her from filing more baseless complaints? But that takes time, so she can keep harassing me indefinitely. Unfortunately, yes. It is one of the flaws in the system. It was designed to protect vulnerable elderly adults, but sometimes it is abused. After Gwen left, I called Roger. I need a restraining order against Pamela, and I need to sue her for defamation and harassment. I am already preparing the documents. But Arthur, this is going to be a long war. Pamela clearly is not going to give up. Neither am I. That night, while I was checking emails in my study, I heard a noise outside, a thud against the window. I got up and looked. There was nothing, probably a bird or a branch. But I got nervous. I called Maurice. All quiet over there, he asked. I heard something outside, probably nothing, but I'm on my way. Stay inside. Maurice arrived in 20 minutes with another one of his men. They checked the perimeter of the house. They found a large rock in the front garden near my study window. Someone threw it, Maurice said. And look at this. He showed me his phone. He had reviewed the security cameras. A hooded figure approached the house around 10 at night, threw the rock, and ran away. We cannot see the face, but by the size and the way of moving, it looks like a woman, Pamela said. Probably. Or someone she hired. I'm going to give this to the police. It is vandalism, at least. We filed the report. The police took the report, but without clear identification of the perpetrator, they could not do much. Keep your cameras recording, they told me. If there are more incidents, we will build a pattern. 2 nights later, someone spray painted on my fence. Old abuser. The cameras captured it. Again, a hooded figure impossible to identify. I called the police again. This time they took paint samples, photographs, but it was still not enough for an arrest. She is trying to provoke me, I told Roger. She wants me to do something impulsive, something she can use against me. Then do not give her the pleasure. Keep calm. Document everything. We are building a solid case. But keeping calm was becoming increasingly difficult. I could not sleep well. Every noise woke me up. I started taking different routes to work. I checked my car before getting in. I felt paranoid, but the paranoia was justified. A week later, I received a call from my bank. Mr. Robinson, there was an attempt at a fraudulent transfer from your account. Someone tried to transfer $50,000 to an overseas account. Our security system blocked it, but we need you to come immediately to review everything. I arrived at the bank in 15 minutes. The manager showed me the details. The attempt was made using my correct personal information, social security number, date of birth, account number. How did they get all this information? That is the worrying question. Mr. Robinson, either there was a data leak or someone very close to you has access to your personal documents. David, I thought. David had access to all those documents when he worked at the company, and he gave them to Pamela. Change everything I said. New passwords, new security questions, multi-factor authentication. Everything. I left the bank feeling violated. Pamela was not only attacking my reputation, she was trying to rob me directly, and every attempt was bolder than the last. That afternoon, Mrs. Higgins called me, crying. Mr. Robinson Pamela threatened me. She told me if I kept talking to you, she was going to cut me out of her life, that I would never see David again. But I need you to know something. I heard Pamela talking on the phone last night. She was hiring someone. I did not hear all the details, but she mentioned your address, your daily routine. Mr. Robinson, I think she is planning something serious, something physical. Did you hear any name, any specific detail? Only that it was someone who could solve problems quietly. Those were her exact words. Mr. Robinson, I am afraid for you. I hung up and called Roger immediately. We need to go to the police with everything. Now, Pamela is escalating dangerously. We met at the station with the police commander. We showed him everything. The original recordings of the plan to declare incapacity, the documented fraud, the threats by text, the vandalism incidents, the bank fraud attempt, and Mrs. Higgins's testimony regarding the hiring of someone to solve problems. The commander reviewed everything carefully. Mr. Robinson, this is enough for a formal investigation. I am going to assign detectives to the case. I am also going to authorize discreet surveillance of Pamela. If she is planning something, we are going to stop her before it happens. And in the meantime, you have to be extremely careful. Vary your routines. Do not go out alone at night. Keep your phone charged and with you always. And at the first sign of real danger, call 911. I left the station feeling slightly better. At least now the authorities were involved. I was not alone in this. That night, I installed additional deadbolts on all the doors. I checked every window. I put a chair against my bedroom door. I went to bed, dressed with the phone on the nightstand, a flashlight on the other side. This was not living. This was living in constant fear in my own house. Around 2 a.m, I heard the sound. It was not loud, just a soft click. The sound of the back door being manipulated. I got up silently. I took the phone and dialed 911 while moving towards the hallway. Someone is trying to enter my house, I whispered to the operator. I gave my address. Hurry. The operator told me to stay on the line, that police were on the way. But the sound continued. Whoever was outside was working on the lock. I had maybe 3 or 4 minutes before they managed to get in. I went down the stairs in the dark. My heart was beating so fast, I thought whoever was outside could hear it. I reached the kitchen. From there I could see the back door. There was a shadow moving on the other side of the glass. A figure crouched working on the lock with some tool. I turned on all the lights at once. The police are coming. I have everything recorded, I shouted with the loudest, firmest voice I could. The figure froze. For a second I thought they were going to keep trying to enter. But then I heard sirens in the distance. The figure got up and ran. I saw them disappear through the back garden, jumping the fence towards the alley. Blue and red lights illuminated my house. 3 patrol cars arrived in less than 2 minutes. The officers checked the whole property. They found the tools the person had left, a professional lockpick set, and they found something else. Shoe prints in the garden mud. Small size, probably a woman's. Do you have enemies, Mr. Robinson? One of the officers asked. I have a daughter-in-law who is trying to destroy me, I replied, and I told them everything. They took my full statement. They photographed the evidence. We are going to patrol your street every hour tonight, they told me, and tomorrow you should consider hiring private security. When they left, it was almost 4 a.m. I could not go back to sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, waiting for dawn, wondering how far Pamela was willing to go. The answer came the next day. Maurice called me at 9 a.m. Arthur, you need to see this. He sent me a link. It was an article on a local gossip blog. The headline read, Prominent Detroit Businessman Accused of Family Abuse and Fraud. The article was a poisonous mix of half-truths and complete lies. It said I had exploited my son for years, that I had forced him to work in abusive conditions, that I had stolen ideas and credit. It cited sources close to the family, saying David lived in fear that I had threatened to disinherit him if he did not obey every order. There was even a photo of me taken from my LinkedIn profile, edited to make me look menacing. "This is pure defamation," I told Roger when I sent him the link. "Every word is a lie. I know I am already preparing a lawsuit against the blog and against Pamela as the source, but the damage is already done. This is circulating on social media. Some of your clients have seen it." And it was true. During the day, I received calls from 3 important clients asking about the article. 2 of them wanted to pause our contracts until the situation cleared up. The third directly canceled a big order. Pamela was achieving exactly what she wanted: destroying my business, my reputation, my life, and she was doing it methodically without leaving direct fingerprints connecting her. That afternoon, the police commander called me. "Mr. Robinson, we have news. We managed to identify the shoe prints from last night. They match a pair of boots we found in a trash search near your house. And on those boots we found DNA. We are processing it now. How long do results take? With priority, a week, maybe less. And if it is Pamela, we have attempted breaking and entering harassment conspiracy. It is enough for an arrest warrant. Finally, some hope. Thank you, Commander." But Pamela did not wait for the results to arrive. That night, David appeared at my door. He was alone, gaunt, dark circles under his eyes. "Dad, I need to talk to you, please." I hesitated. It could be another trap, but he was my son, and something in his voice sounded broken. I opened the door, but stayed in the frame. "Speak. Pamela is out of control. She is obsessed with destroying you. She does not sleep anymore. She spends hours planning the next move. I told her to stop, that we had already signed the agreement, that we should just move on. But she does not listen to me. She never listens to me. And you come to tell me this now, after she tried to break into my house, after she is ruining my business. I come to warn you, because last night I heard something that scared me. Pamela was talking to someone on the phone. She said, if Plan A does not work, we have to move to Plan B. I asked her what that meant. She told me not to worry. But Dad, the tone of her voice, there was something dark there, something dangerous. Do you know what Plan B is? No, but I think it might be something physical, something to hurt you for real. Tears ran down his face. I cannot allow that. I cannot be part of that. I may be a thief and a traitor, but I am not. I cannot be an accomplice to something worse. I looked at him for a long time. Where is she now? At home. She thinks I'm buying cigarettes. I have maybe 20 minutes before she suspects. I took out my phone and called the commander. Commander Herrera, this is Arthur Robinson. My son is here. He says Pamela is planning something serious. We need to act now. I am sending a unit to your house right now. Do not let your son leave. I need to talk to him. David went pale. Dad, what are you doing? What I should have done a long time ago, stopping this before it is too late. I ushered him in. Sit down. You are going to tell the police everything you know. Pamela is going to kill me. Pamela is going to go to jail. And you are going to decide right now whose side you're on. On the side of your criminal wife, or on the side of your father whom you betrayed, but who is still willing to protect you if you do the right thing. He collapsed on the couch, covering his face with his hands. Everything got out of control. At first it was just talk, fantasizing about having more money. Then Pamela started making real plans. And I was too weak to stop her, too scared of losing her. Would you prefer to lose me? Would you prefer something happened to me because of your cowardice? No, he sobbed. No, Dad, I am sorry. God, I am so sorry. The patrol car arrived in 5 minutes. Commander Herrera came with them. He entered my house with 2 detectives. David Robinson, he said formally, I need you to tell me everything you know about Pamela's plans. David spoke for almost an hour. He told them about the meetings with the lawyer Sanders, about the original plan to declare me incompetent. He told them about how Pamela became increasingly obsessive after I confronted them. He told them about the conversations he had heard, the messages he had seen, the strange people Pamela had contacted. 3 days ago, David said with a trembling voice, "Pamela received a visit from a man. I was in the study. She thought I could not hear her. The man told her the job would cost $10,000, half up front, half later. Pamela gave him $5,000 in cash. The man said he needed to study the target's routine for a few days. When he left, I asked Pamela who he was. She told me he was a private investigator. But Dad, no private investigator charges like that, nor talks that way." Commander Herrera got serious. "Can you describe that man? Tall, maybe 6 feet heavy? Build tattoos on his arms." He spoke with a southern accent. "Did you see his vehicle?" "A black pickup truck. I did not see the plates." Herrera looked at his detectives. "Sounds like a hitman. We need to move fast." He turned to me. "Mr. Robinson, I'm going to put police protection on your house right now. And we are going to bring Pamela in for questioning." "And David?" I asked. Herrera looked at my son. "David Robinson, you are a cooperating witness at this moment, but depending on your level of participation in the original conspiracy, you could face charges. For now, you are going to come with us to make a formal statement." David got up defeated. Before leaving, he looked at me. "Dad, I know you are never going to forgive me, but thanks for not letting Pamela do something terrible. I am not doing it for you, David. I am doing it because despite everything, I do not want my son to be an accomplice to something unforgivable." They took him away. The commander left 2 officers guarding my house. "Do not go out unless it is absolutely necessary," he instructed me. "If that man Pamela hired is who I think he is dangerous. We are going to find him, but meanwhile, you have to stay safe." That night was the longest of my life. The officers were outside rotating every 4 hours. I stayed inside with all lights on, unable to sleep, waiting for news. At 3 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Herrera. We found her. Pamela is under arrest. She tried to escape when we arrived at her house. She had a suitcase packed passports cash. She was planning to flee the country. Did she confess anything? She denied everything. She says David is lying, that he invented all this to get revenge on her. But we found evidence in her house, messages on a secondary cell phone David did not know about, conversations with the man he described, including photos of you, of your house, of your routine. Mr. Robinson, there is no doubt. She was planning to hire someone to hurt you seriously. Maybe even something worse. I felt nauseous. Did you find the man? Not yet. But we have his description, his contact numbers. It is a matter of time. Meanwhile, Pamela is going to remain in custody. The judge denied bail, given the flight risk and the gravity of the charges. I hung up and sat in the dark. Pamela, the woman my son had loved, who had eaten at my table, who had played with the idea of giving me grandchildren, had hired someone to harm me, to maybe even end my life. All for money, all for greed. The next day, the story exploded in the local media. Businesswoman arrested for conspiracy to hire hitman against father-in-law. The details were scarce, but sufficient. My company phones did not stop ringing. Clients who had abandoned me called apologizing. Worried friends wanted to know if I was okay. Reporters sought statements. Roger handled everything. We issued a simple statement. Mr. Arthur Robinson appreciates the community's concern. He is cooperating fully with authorities in an active criminal investigation. He will give no further statements at this time. 3 days later, they captured the man. He was exactly who David had described. A criminal with a record in 3 states, known for intimidation jobs and paid assault. On his phone, they found the photos Pamela had sent him. Photos of me, my schedules, my routes, everything prepared for the attack. During interrogation, the man confessed everything. Pamela had contacted him through a mutual acquaintance. She had paid him $5,000 up front to give a scare to an old businessman. The plan was to wait for me to go out alone, follow me to an isolated place, and make sure I could not cause more problems. When detectives asked him what that meant exactly, the man was vague. "Depends on how much he fought," he said with chilling indifference. With his confession, the charges against Pamela were upgraded: conspiracy to commit serious bodily harm, conspiracy to defraud, harassment, attempted breaking and entering. The prosecution estimated she faced between 8 and 15 years in prison if found guilty. David came to see me a week later. The charges against him for the original fraud were still valid, but the prosecutor was considering reducing them for his cooperation. He looked 10 years older. "Dad, I am going to plead guilty to everything. The fraud, the initial conspiracy, everything. I am not going to fight. I deserve it. And Pamela, I hired a divorce lawyer. I am going to end everything. I cannot be married to someone capable of that, of planning to hurt my own father." Tears rolled down his face. How did I get to this? How did I become this person? You became this person when you started valuing money more than family, when you let Pamela convince you that you deserved things you had not earned, when you chose the easy path of stealing instead of the hard path of working. Is there any way to fix this? To be your son again? I looked at him for a long time. I do not know David, not now, maybe someday. But first you have to pay for what you did. You have to go to jail, serve your sentence, and when you get out, prove to me that you really changed. Not with words, with actions. For years. I will do it, I promise. Do not make promises. You already broke enough. Just do it. He left. And I stayed with my thoughts, my emotions, my heart broken but my dignity intact. Pamela's trial lasted 3 months. The evidence was overwhelming. The original recordings of the conspiracy to declare me incompetent, David's testimony, the hitman's testimony, the messages on her phone, the photos, everything. Her lawyer tried to argue she was mentally disturbed. That old diagnoses of narcissistic disorder showed she was not completely responsible for her actions, but the prosecutor destroyed that argument. Pamela planned meticulously every step. She deleted evidence. She used secondary phones. She planned to escape the country. Those are not actions of someone who does not understand the difference between right and wrong. Those are the actions of a calculating criminal. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned with the verdict, my heart was beating so fast I thought everyone could hear it. "Guilty," they said. "Guilty on all charges." The sentence arrived a week later. 12 years in prison. Pamela showed no emotion when the judge sentenced her. She only looked at me once with cold eyes, empty. And in that moment I realized she had never felt anything real for me, not even genuine hate. She had only seen an obstacle to what she wanted, and when that obstacle did not move, she decided to eliminate it. David was sentenced separately. 3 years in prison for fraud, reduced from 5 for his cooperation. He also had to pay me back the $150,000 he had stolen, plus interest. When they took him away handcuffed, he looked at me one last time. "I am sorry, Dad," he said. I did not answer. There was nothing to say. The following months were of rebuilding. My business had suffered but survived. Some clients returned apologizing, others did not. But I had built the company solid enough to weather the storm. I hired a new assistant commercial director, a brilliant woman of 35 with real experience, not just a degree. I promised myself I would never again mix family with business, that I would never again let love blind my judgment. Mrs. Higgins came to see me one day. She brought a pie she had baked. "I do not know how to apologize for what my daughter did," she said with tears. "But I want you to know I am grateful you are okay and that justice was done. You did the right thing warning me," I told her. "You probably saved my life. Have you heard from David?" "He writes me letters from prison. I have not read them. Are you going to read them someday? I do not know." maybe when it hurts less. A year passed, then two. David served his full sentence without additional reductions. When he got out, he did not come directly to me. He got a humble job at a mechanic shop, not mine, another one. He started from the bottom as an apprentice mechanic, earning a fraction of what he used to earn. I found out because the owner of the shop was an old friend. "Your son is working for me," he told me. "He arrives early, leaves, late works, hard never complains. I think he is really trying to change." Good was all I said. 6 more months passed. Then David wrote me a letter. Not the typical apology letter. It was different. "Dad, I am not writing to ask for forgiveness again. I already did that 1,000 times, and words mean nothing. I am writing to tell you I finally understand. I understand what you worked for to build what you had. I understand why you were tired when you came home. I understand why you told me I had to start from the bottom, because only from the bottom can you appreciate the view from the top. I work with my hands now. My muscles ache. I get home exhausted. I earn barely enough to pay rent on a small apartment and basic food. And you know what? I feel more honest than ever, because every dollar I earn is mine. I did not steal it. I did not manipulate it from anyone. I earned it. I do not know if someday you will be able to forgive me. I do not know if I deserve your forgiveness. But I want you to know that the son you raised did not die completely. He was buried under layers of greed and weakness. But I am digging him out day by day, job by job. If someday you want to see me, I will be here. And if you do not want to, I will understand. I owe you more than I can pay in a lifetime, but I am going to spend the rest of my life trying. Your son, David." I read the letter 3 times. I left it on my desk. Days passed, then weeks. Finally, one afternoon, I drove to the shop where David worked. I saw him from afar in dirty coveralls, hands stained with grease, helping change the transmission of an old car. He looked different. He was not the spoiled man I had raised. He was someone new, or maybe someone old, reborn. I did not approach him that day. I just stood watching for a few minutes. Then I left. 2 months later, David turned 35. I sent him a simple card. It just said, "Keep working. Keep changing." Maybe someday. I did not sign. It was not necessary. A week later, I received a reply. It was a photo. David, with the shop owner holding a diploma from a technical course he had completed. On the back of the photo in shaky handwriting, "Thanks for not giving up on me even when I gave up on you." Today, while I write this, 3 years have passed since that night when I told David and Pamela I had lost everything. 3 years since I unmasked their betrayal. Pamela is still in prison. She has 9 years left. I heard she lost an appeal recently. David and I. We are rebuilding slowly, very slowly. We have dinner together once a month. Brief conversations, awkward sometimes, but honest. He tells me about his work, his modest goals, the lessons he is learning. I tell him about the company, but without offering him to come back. That is never going to happen. Have I forgiven him completely? No. Maybe I never will, but I am learning to live with the betrayal, with the disappointment, with the reality that the people we love can fail us in ways we never imagined. What I do know is this. That night when I lied to them about losing everything, I saved my life. Because if I had not tested them, if I had waited longer, Pamela would have gone ahead with her plan, and I would not be here today. So what did I learn from all this? I learned that money brings out the worst in people. That family does not always mean loyalty. That raising a child with privileges without teaching him to value them is a fatal mistake. I learned that defending your dignity, even against your own blood, is not cruelty. It is survival. I learned that second chances are earned, not given. That real forgiveness takes years, not days. That some wounds never heal completely, you just learn to live with them. And I learned that being alone with your dignity intact is better than being surrounded by people who see you as a walking bank. If you are listening to this and identify with my story, if you have relatives who only look for you when they need money, who only ask about you when they want something, listen to me. You are not obligated to endure the abuse. You are not obligated to be victims of your own family. Put them to the test. Do what I did. Fake a crisis. See who really cares about you and who only cares about your money. Because it is better to know the truth and be prepared than to live in ignorance until it is too late. Document everything. Hire professionals if necessary. Protect your assets. Change your wills. Do not wait for betrayal to turn into something worse. And if you are the children, the ones reading this, and you recognize something of David in yourselves, change now. Before you destroy the relationship with the people who gave you everything. Before greed turns you into criminals. Before it is too late. Money comes and goes. Family, when it is right, is forever. But when it is wrong, when it is poisoned by greed, it is better to let it go than let it destroy you. I am 61 years old now. My hair is completely white. I have more wrinkles. But when I look in the mirror, I see a man who defended himself, who did not allow them to destroy him, who chose dignity over fake peace, and that at the end of the day is the only thing that really matters. A week ago, David called me. Dad, I am saving to buy a small piece of land. I want to build my own shop someday, small, just mine. Without partners? Without debts? Could you give me some advice? Come to dinner Sunday, I told him. We will talk. I'm not going to give him money. I am not going to make the path easy for him. But I am going to give him something more valuable. My experience, my knowledge, the lessons I learned building my empire from scratch. Because maybe, just maybe, after years of paying for his mistakes, after rebuilding himself from the ashes of his own betrayal, my son finally is ready to be the man I always wanted him to be. Will we be father and son like before? No. That relationship died that night. But we are building something new. Something based on earned respect, not shared blood. Something based on truth, not expectations. And maybe that is better. Maybe that is more real. This is my story. The story of how a lie saved my life, of how testing my family showed me their true nature, of how defending my dignity cost me everything and nothing at the same time. If it served you in any way, if you learned something, if it made you think twice about the people in your lives, then it was worth telling. Because in the end, the only thing we take when we leave this world is our story. And I prefer my story to be of a man who defended himself, who fought, who did not give up, rather than the story of a victim who allowed his own family to destroy him in silence. Defend your dignity, protect what you built, and never confuse family love with the obligation to endure abuse. Because the family that betrays you is not family. It is just people with whom you shared a last name, and you deserve more than that. We all deserve more than that. Thanks for listening. And remember, sometimes losing everything is the best way to discover who is really by your side.